This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air for the first time with Kevin Roth, your award-winning musician, artist, and author, and life coach, and creator of Dulcimeditation. Is that how I say it?
Dulcimeditation, yeah.
So, thank you for being on the show today, and we're always thankful to have people on live. And before we get to the heart of our story, we always ask our guests a couple questions. What motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
Going deep fast. I love it. I'm in my heart and in my soul, I'm a musician, a painter, creative guy. And I'm also a life coach because of an experience I had in 2015 where 3 oncologists told me I would be dead within a year and a half with melanoma. And I didn't believe them, and I was right. So I'm at the age now where I've had a lot of success and I've had a lot of heartache like everybody. And I was asking myself, what do you want to do with your life now that you're kind of semi-retired? And I thought, do what you love. Keep creating music and keep guiding people as a life coach and spiritual teacher.
I think that's important to kind of pay it forward. Because like when you have life experience and just to share, like I at age 27, I had a stage 3 sarcoma on my back. So I become somewhat familiar with what you went through. People thought that I wasn't going to be around back in when I was 27. I'm 58. I'm still here. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So like every time I talk to creative people, it seems like they're really they were just like keyed into like the universe or something. And like, it looks like you got into music at age 4. It's like, was that just something that your family was like into, or you were the one that gravitated toward it?
I was the only musical guy. And around the age of 4 or 5, I started to play the piano by ear. And I was also at the same time keenly aware that there was something that wasn't quite normal about this world. Even at 5, I realized that there was something going on, but I didn't know what it was. And that, of course, was a spiritual thing and later could be looked at in quantum physics, as I was right on target even at the age of 5.
Yeah. But sometimes it's like people feel frequencies. I'm a synthesis. So I deal with like subtractive synthesis, which is like creating sounds from sound waves. And every musician knows that when you get in front of an audience, that if you use a certain pattern with your rhythms and use certain tones, that, if you're more like a punk rocker and you're very discordant, you get the mosh pit. If you're more like a Stevie Wonder, then your affirmations, like everybody's kind of like feeling like, oh, wow, they're feeling spiritual. They're feeling, like a Bob Marley, you're feeling that. So like with these sound waves, you can key in on these universal like keys that will trigger behavior. And if you're a musician or an actor, you know how to use your voice or your instrument to actually do that.
Yeah, it's knowing how to connect to people in general. And I think once you see in their eyes or feel in their vibe where they're at, then you've established a connection, which isn't all that difficult because we're all kind of looking to be loved in the same thing. And it's what we do with it, whether it's musically or teaching, that makes the world kind of go round.
So in terms of like the link between your spirituality and the music, was it all tied together, or is it something that you grew into?
Well, it was and is all tied together because everything comes from what I call the source. But when I was 4 or 5, I just didn't know where the music was coming from. All I knew is I would hear things in elementary school and come home and play it. In fact, my father used to have his business down in the basement. And one day he came up with sort of a 2x4 thinking that there was someone in the house robbing the place. And then he found out it was me playing the piano.
Yeah, it's like some people talk about, like the Victorians talking about the muse. A lot of people talk about they get a download from the universe. I think like if you're an artist, no matter what type of artist you are, or even any human being, like I think with artists we have this connection, like we know our subconscious, and because we're artists we're also very observant. Like
Yes.
writers, any kind of writer, they pick up all the stuff that's going on around them,
Yes.
and they're able to put that into their art. Like writers, they put it into their novels.
Yeah.
Filmmakers, they put it into their scripts and screenplays and movies.
Yeah. And we're like empaths. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can you just figure out how to be very authentic and vulnerable,
Yes.
because that's the key to success, is like being, not afraid of that vulnerability and tapping into it. And that's where some people, they just don't get past their glass ceiling, where they won't share it. They put the wall up and they can't do, they choose not to do it. Eventually maybe they break through it, but I think we find it like important. It's part of our catharticism. I mean, it's very cathartic, and it's like you have to do it whether you're going to be a big hit or not. You're just going to do it.
Yeah, I think the artist's role is to say what other people feel but don't know how to express for themselves.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is. And so that's where like we can get keyed into that, like these universal truths or ideas or concepts, and then people are like, wow, how did you hit that? Well, because I'm kind of in tune with the wind.
Yes, yes.
So the dulcimer, can you define what that means for you?
Well, first of all, let me show you what it looks like. This
Oh,
is
wow.
it's an hourglass shaped instrument, and that's what it sounds like. Sort of like sounds like a cross between a harp and a guitar. And I happened to see one of these played when I was 13 at a meditation gathering.
Oh, wow. Where was that?
It was in Philadelphia. And it was a particularly weird time because my mother had passed away probably about 6 months earlier. And there was a young lady who was playing the dulcimer. I'd never met her or seen the instrument. And I was attracted to both. And she was actually really into Sufism.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to become friendly with her. So I got into sort of the spiritual trip through her. And she was giving up being a musician for a living. And I just saw it, the dulcimer, and I found one. I bought one. And within 2 years, I had my first record deal on Folkway Records. So it was destiny.
I know.
It was really, the spiritual and the music path, just kind of like I came into the world with both plugs,
Yeah, you're just aligned. That instrument, like I was in Japan. I mean, it seems somewhat similar to like Asian instruments, but maybe it's not. What's the historic, history behind that instrument?
Well, the dulcimer, which means sweet song, historically is related to a lot of European zither instruments. But the dulcimer itself comes from the Appalachian Mountains. So it's an American folk instrument.
Oh, it's interesting. Because I guess other cultures end up going in similar directions, but maybe not parallel development, but they have instruments that seem somewhat similar.
Yeah.
But it's like everybody gets to it some point. They find a way to get a German piano, we get American piano, we get, just different points, but different focus of what you're trying to do with the instrument. In terms of what do you love about it?
Everything. I've been playing it 56 years and it never gets old. It's mysterious because you can tune it in modes, which are a series of intervals, and Gregorian chants are modal.
Oh, modal, so you can tune it to that.
Modal music is related a lot to things like astronomy and things like that. But I think anyone who becomes a dulcimer player or finds a dulcimer, it's just an enchanting instrument, and it's super easy to play because it's based on the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do scale with a few extra sharps or flats thrown in for good measure.
And you can do chords on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many strings does it have?
It's usually about 4.
4, okay.
But it can have up to 6.
Oh, so somewhat like a bass. well, in terms of that level.
Well, yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't sound like a bass. Sounds more like a a typical, like, not a guitar, but somewhere in the guitar range.
Yeah,
It
it
seems
sounds
to
like a
have
plucked,
that tone to it.
yeah, it's a plucked zither, really.
Hmm. So that's fully acoustic, right?
Well, you can plug it in, and
Oh, you
they
can.
do
It's like it
have
has a
electric
pickups. It has pickups.
Yeah, and they have solid body electric dulcimers too now.
Oh wow. So you played all different types of dulcimers?
Oh yes, and I've collected them all my life. In fact, there's a National Dulcimer Museum in Ohio, and they have a whole section, Kevin Roth Dulcimer collection. I guess, I don't know, there may be up to 20 dulcimers by now, and I have another 20 around the place here.
Yeah, that's kind of like when you think about like you musicians, and they like you use the right instrument for what it serves the song. So I know, like, there's stories like Keith Richards had this big semi that was full of guitars,
Yeah,
and he would go into it and pick the guitar that serves the song. So
yeah,
you kind of know, like, why would I use my Moog Mother 30, a Moog mini Moog versus using an Oberheim
yeah,
versus using a Roland Juno or a Jupiter. Like, there's reasons why I would use one or the other because I'm
yes,
looking for a certain tone. You know what I mean?
yes.
So is that the way you choose, like, to record with it on a record?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they have soprano and baritone and regular and bass dulcimers.
Oh, wait, so so have you done like a lot of I would think, it's like, are you working by yourself, just multi-tracking your work, or you're working with a band?
No, I'm a soloist. I've toured with other musicians, and I've certainly on 58 record albums, I've used a lot of different musicians on most of them, but I do have some solo dulcimer records out as well.
So it's just
But
totally just you on some of them?
yeah, I have a lot of solo dulcimer instrumental albums and things like that. The reason I didn't join a band or become a band is because being just by myself, I can never break up.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of my thing with, like, what I do is like once you get into synthesizer, you can own everything. Like
Yes.
I used to play with bands, and then I gotta wait for the drummer, wait for the bass player, wait for the vocalist, and then once you decide, like, I want to control. If you're a control freak, I'm not a big freak, but like when you know what your vision is and
Yep.
you can execute it, and you don't have to wait for anybody, then you
Yeah.
just end up executing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when we go back to your stage 3 melanoma in 2015, you said it was kind of like a spiritual kick in the ass. Um, So you know you were feeling like I knew when when I had my cancer, I was feeling not right, and I knew there was something wrong. Was that the kind of feeling you had, or it came out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere, I had just moved from Florida to Kansas um, to be closer to family. And I set up, my bank and my doctors and all, the stuff you do when you get settled. And it was on a routine dermatology appointment. This guy said, "What's this little freckle on your nose?" And I said, "It's nothing." I said, "The guy in Florida, the dermatologist in Florida said nothing." And he said, "Well, I disagree." And the next thing I know, oh man. But I know what brought that cancer on, which is the important thing. And it was stress and inflammation. Because being in the music business, I had wanted to get a major record deal and become a millionaire and get a TV
Yeah.
show and all this stuff. And I got all of it. And I got a whole lot of stress with it. Whatever I got, it was never enough. No matter how much money I had, never enough. Not a big enough house, not a fancy enough car. And that's very stressful. What I was really searching for was a deeper spiritual connection to the truth. But where I thought it was in fame and fortune. And what that did is it created stress, which created inflammation, which created the cancer. So I knew immediately why that showed up. So I didn't feel sick. I wasn't sick a day in my life. And I mean, I had 2 little minor surgeries, but I never did chemo. I never did anything. What I did do is I changed my entire life. I said, screw this business, screw all this money and all this power tripping. And I asked myself, if you're going to die, if they're right in a year and a half to 2, what do you want to do with the time you have? So I asked, what do you love? And what mattered to me was my dog and my music. And I wanted to get the hell out of Kansas and go live back in San Diego where I had performed once. So I had to figure out a way to do that because I was almost bankrupt at that point in my life. But I just said, you know what? The way I was doing life made me ill. Mm-hmm. But I know what I should do to get myself where I want to be. And I just crawled into it.
That's interesting because I think a lot of times in our life, we've got these idealized vision of what it can be. I was a sociology major, so there's like a microcosm level, macrocosm level. People think about like their soulmate. They have this idealized vision of like who their soulmate's going to be. And then they don't actually deal with the present. They're always looking for it to be better, or this idealized version of their marriage, or an idealized version of the perfect partner. And then they don't appreciate the things that are actually happening because they're always anticipating this other thing. And they want people to, to gravitate to these other things like the money, the success, the power, the being fulfilled by what? Like you don't actually experience like in the present day. I remember Herbie Hancock, was talking to Miles Davis, and he made a mistake, and when they were playing, and he thought it was going to be the end of the world. And Miles said, "Wait, it's fusion jazz, it's modal jazz. It doesn't matter. It's actually evolving the song. You just need to live in the present."
Yeah,
you live in the present, and you don't have to get freaked out.
Yes. Yeah, true.
So when you started to figure out like this path of becoming more, I guess, in tune with yourself in the universe and everything around you, then that becomes more calming, and you don't have that stress. So you started to de-stress your life, right?
Well, I decided to de-stress my life. So once I asked myself what mattered and why, and what was I going to do about it, I started to walk my talk. So I started to pack and gave my landlord at the time 2 months notice. And I had nowhere to live in San Diego. I didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do. But I knew it was the right thing to do. And I found exactly what I wanted for the price, which is pretty shocking. And, the music business at that point had kind of collapsed on everybody.
Oh, was that like right when Napster happened and the CDs like lost their value?
Yeah. And, being on the internet doesn't pay you much. But thank God I'd been successful, very successful, before all that happened. So I had nothing to lose. And I didn't really care about what I was going to do to make a living at that time because I'm an artist. I do painting. In fact, that art thing behind the chair is mine. So I could sell those, and I had other little tricks up my sleeve. Plus I booked a few concerts, but who and what I was going to do for the next chapter in my life, I had no idea, but it was mostly heal yourself and figure out what is the formula to keep you happy, healthy, and whole.
I think it's interesting when I've talked to a lot of creative people is that, everybody always wants to pigeonhole you like your A&R people. They want to say, well, this is what your niche is. This is your genre, right? But then you find out, well, you're a painter too. Like you're a writer too. Like you might do all kinds of things. No person is just one thing. No person is just an actuary.
Yeah.
Right? They're not just an accountant. Right? There's other aspects to your life, but we kind of get pigeonholed into what people think of who you are.
Yeah, they want to market you.
Yeah.
When I got into being a life coach, which just sort of happened, people kept telling me, you need to find a niche. And I didn't know what my niche was until about a year into my coaching. And I realized my niche was me, my experience and what I do. I mean, Dulcimeditation is definitely a niche.
Yeah.
But I refuse to buy into what would get a lot of clients. I talked to a life coach who was very successful. I mean, like millions of views on YouTube. And after he interviewed me for his podcast, he said, dude, I've interviewed a lot of guys and you could be a rock star life coach. I mean, you got it. And I said, I have no interest in being a rock star, anything.
Yeah, because you already came from that. You didn't want to do that again.
Yeah, I want to work with a handful of people that hear what my experience was, how it changed my life, and who want to follow the instructions because I know it works. And I've been doing this since 2020, I believe. 2020, right before COVID. And everyone who works with me, for the most part, if they listen, their lives have really, really changed. And that's as good, if not better, than any standing ovation or check you can receive because you're helping to change people's lives simply.
Yeah.
I'm a very spiritual guy, but I'm not a woo-woo guy. I got to experience it, and I've had more than one challenging arguments with gurus and teachers and these 20-year-old self-proclaimed enlightened beings on TikTok that are selling their bullshit program.
They're all trying to get 1 million views and 1 million likes and subscribers. Like it's all just a numbers game for them, a lot of it. And I've always been of the mind that if you affect even one person and you're passionate about what you do and you stick to like your secret sauce, which is you.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to clone whatever the algorithm says you should be.
Yeah.
I think you'll do a lot better, at least peace of mind wise.
Yeah, there's a young guy, he's like a bodybuilder or something, he's 20 something, and he made this video and he said, I worked really hard, I worked my ass off, and I got a lot of money, and I bought the houses, I have the cards, and I'm so disappointed that it's meaningless.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
So, but you got to go through those kinds of experiences to get there. You have to figure out what makes you tick and go with it.
So your book, Between the Notes, is that like, how did that come about? Is that, in the time scale we've been talking about?
Well, it was really cathartic because I wanted to move on from that terribly difficult time in 2015 because, I was given a death sentence, So I thought I'd write about it and also write about what it was that I did because, a lot of people see me or hear me and they want to work with me, but they can't afford to work with me or they're not in a position to work with someone like myself. So they can get the book on Amazon for whatever it costs. I don't even know, and follow the instructions. But that usually doesn't do it, to be honest with you, because most people need someone like a coach like myself to hold them accountable. You've got to have someone behind you saying, did you do this? Did you do that? And why didn't you do it? And why do you want to do that? And where are you going, to kind of clear things up for you. But it's helpful. It's gotten tremendous reviews. It's got 5 stars. I don't know. It's pretty amazing,
Had you ever written a book before?
No. There were songbooks from my dulcimer music, but no, never a book.
Was that intimidating or you felt like comfortable because you knew what you wanted to say?
No, I just channeled it like I do songs. I have a Substack called Kevin Roth Dulcimer where I write sometimes once or twice a week. I post stories, short stories and poems and things like that. And that's going to be the next book that will not have an editor. This one had an editor and was pretty expensive to put together. But the Substack thing is growing slowly but surely. And that's a different kind of writing process and
Yeah.
publishing process.
So you want to actually convert that into a book.
Yeah, because there's a lot of really fun stories, fiction, and some political commentary, and stories about human nature. Yeah.
So in terms of like linking it all together, your music has been a constant thing since you were 4. Um, so when you think about like your life, it seems like you like to write. Do you actually speak like a TEDx speaking tour? Do you do like webinars or um, any kind of speaking in front of people
If I'm invited, I do, but I don't go out there and promote myself like that. I do podcasts like this
like this?
because it's one-on-one conversations.
Hmm.
And I live a pretty simple, quiet life. And I find that people find me. I don't have to go looking for a lot of
Looking
people.
for people.
I don't work with a lot of people.
Yeah, you don't want to have that big steady stream. You rather be like more to defend. You want to be selective in your.
I want to cook for people who are hungry. I want
Hmm.
to teach for people who come to me because their husband just died and they don't know what the hell to do,
Hmm.
or they're a minister and they've lost faith in God, or they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. They've tried therapy, they've tried all kinds of things, and they heard my story and they resonated with what I said. And they said, "How did you get there? Because I gotta get. I'm down so long. It looks like it's just up to me. Because the truth is that nobody's going to save you. You
Yeah,
have to save yourself. And I can show you how I did it. And what I teach is common sense. The spiritual things, is pretty out there, But I teach all kinds of people. You don't have to be. So I teach Christians, Jews, atheists, Muslims, Buddhists. It's not. It's all the same point. You know.
yeah. I think it's important to like really lean into like yourself, like you're saying, and understand that like no one's gonna solve your problem until you actually admit you have a problem. And
Yeah, awareness is big.
because it's like that looking glass self, the Victorians concept, right? Like a lot of people don't want to be self-aware, or they've been taught to kind of suck it up and
Yeah,
not talk about it, or they have a lot of shame about it. Like if you grow up in a household where there's like we don't talk about the things that hurt us, we have to be strong and push it down, and then there's no self-analysis, there's no self-criticism, no critical thinking, um, and then you eventually that doesn't work for you.
yeah. This field has gotten very complicated, and what I teach is very simple. You either want to be happy or not. You want to either be broke or you want to be out of debt. Most people, when I first interview them for potential clients, the first question I ask them is, what don't you want in your life anymore? And that stops them. And they go, well, I know what I want. No, I don't want to know what you want. I want to know what you don't want. What do you want to get rid of? And then they say, well, I want to get rid of my credit card debt. Well, I want to get rid of my job, but there's no way I can afford to get rid of my job. And I say, stop with the no. You can't, forget all that stuff. Okay. Let's establish what you don't want. Now let's look at what you do want. And now let's cut out a direct path to where you want to go. It's not rocket science. I swear to you, it is not rocket science. But here's the trick. People are addicted to pain. They love hanging out. They go into dirty ponds to get clean. They love their mud because it feels good. Addictions feel good when you numb out. It's this consequence afterwards. So what you need to do is you need to realize that if you don't talk to that person who is toxic, you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a client once who said, my mother drives me crazy. She texts me all the time. She calls all the time. I don't have any space. And I said, don't answer her.
Yeah.
She said, well, I've got to answer. I said, well, if she texts you 20 times, text her back twice. I'm busy. I'll get back to you at the end of the day. You know, so I tell people don't step in it. But before you do that, you have to know what isn't working for you. And that, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I guess they don't know how to set their boundaries. You know, like if like you're a people pleaser, you never set boundaries. You spend all this time pleasing people and you don't please yourself. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you don't set that boundary with the mom that's calling you 100 times. Right.
With the mom or with the boss or with the partner or whatever it is, you know, there's limits and balances. So you know, you got on the merry-go-round, you can get off.
Yeah, I think we get addicted, like you say, to the bad loop. People will stay in the toxic workplace because they're scared to get out of it. They don't know what to do if they were out of it.
Yeah, they feel uncomfortable with peace.
Yeah, it's like you're trapped with the noise. Like sometimes you need to be in a place where there's no noise.
Yeah.
And if you're addicted to the noise, you're addicted to all the discordance. And you don't even know how to deal with take a walk in the woods. And it's like, hey, nature is the cathedral, like the Victorians said, right?
Right.
And you instead of going into the forest, you got your Walkman on.
Yeah.
Right. You're not actually listening to the river. You're not listening to the trees. You're still taking the noise with you.
Yeah, you're recording it for Instagram.
Yeah. So you're still caught up in the whole artifice of all this stuff. And you don't know how to let it go. You know how to take your shoes off and touch the ground with soil. Your feet touch soil. Like you get that kind of feeling, you know.
The big question about all of that is, why do we do it? We want peace, but we do things that don't give us peace. We want happiness, but we do things that don't always make us happy. So if you were to ask yourself, what is it that is the common link with everybody, you, me, the folks listening? It's that we want to be loved, you know?
Yeah.
And when you learn to love yourself, like I tell people, I date myself all the time. When you love yourself, not in an egotistical way, you become the cake, the whole cake. And then if someone shows up, they're the icing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but people, and you know, more and more nowadays, especially, a lot of young people are into being single. They've had enough with politics. They've had enough with this so-called American dream falling apart. A lot of people have moved out of the country, gone somewhere else, and now are coming back because wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like if you try to run from it, like, and you just like you go to the next town, like all the things that are like in that looking glass self, if you didn't address it, it's in Chicago, it's in Detroit, it's in LA, it's in Boston, so it's wherever you are, right?
Yeah, I mean, change is good if you know why you're changing. You know, if like I don't like the Midwest, I don't like the East Coast anymore because I don't like snow. Right. So I live in San Diego. The weather is beautiful. I walk along the ocean. It takes me 10 minutes to drive to the ocean. It takes me an hour to drive to the mountains. I love this weather. Other people say, oh, I need the change of seasons. And I say, well, I can drive up to the mountains in an hour and get snow. No, it's not the same. No, I got to live in Ohio. Okay, well, wherever you're happy.
Shovel the driveway.
Yeah. You know, whatever you want. Some people love the snow. I used to love the snow, but I don't love it so much now.
Yeah. Well, in New Hampshire, we like the snowshoe and skiing board.
Yeah, I did a lot of cross country skiing in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the woods, but I was born in Mass and I went to school in Maine and I live in New Hampshire. So I'm kind of like, Northeast guy, but, it seems like there's, 3 things you mentioned, that people must do to change our lives. But like, well, what are those three things to you?
Well, the first thing is you need to know what your greatest asset is in life. And most people would think it's their home or their, their possessions or their money. And it's not, it's your health. And your health means mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. If you don't have your health, doesn't matter how much money you got or what you have, your life is fairly unpleasant. You could ask Steve Jobs if he were alive.
Oh yeah.
You can ask a lot of people who have, who have lost their health that would pay any amount of money to get it back. So that's the first thing. You need your health, which means you need to work out a little. You need to watch what you eat. You need to have some form of meditation. If it's not structured, it's something. Even if it's walking in nature is meditation. The second thing you need is clarity. You need to know what matters to you and what doesn't, and what, in your opinion, would make your life happier and easier and peaceful. And then you need to get a game plan and work it. And the third thing is you need some sort of spiritual root system.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be an atheist. I don't even care. I work with atheists. They believe in nature.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just an illusion. The whole thing's a dream anyway. So, but, whether you think Jesus is your savior or God is your savior or Buddha or this,
Yeah.
you come from something. And it doesn't care what you call it.
Yeah.
It doesn't care.
Some universal truth is out there. That, like, you look into the stars, you can see.
Yeah. And nothing in this world makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, science says the universe is expanding into what?
Well, it's going to hit the wall and then come back and blow up again and do it again.
There's no wall. When I was about, I guess, 14 or something, I asked a science teacher, how did all of this begin? And he said, the Big Bang. And I said, well, what created the Big Bang? He said, nothing. And I said, it just went bang? And he said, yeah. I said, well, that's ridiculous. Yeah. And he got mad at me. And he said, well, what you're asking is a religious question. So I talked to people in religion. I said, how did all this get started? And they said, God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. And I said, why? Did God need a nap? I mean,
well, it's kind of like the Big Bang. It's still the same thing. It's like, why did it start?
Yeah. Right? So it all comes down to consciousness and what that is. And so that's the spiritual thing. And some find a lot of peace in the teachings of Jesus. Some find it in Buddhism. Some find it in just sitting still and being quiet and asking inside. But you need those three things. You need your health, you need clarity, and you need some spiritual stuff. Because if you think that this world that you're living on, this little planet, is it, I got another thing coming, buddy. It ain't.
Yeah. Oh, energy never created or destroyed from science. So
Correct.
You kind of think that you're going to, from a universal perspective, like we're energy. Energy can't be destroyed. So you're going to get it, your energy is going to pass to something else.
Correct. Yeah.
But in terms of, like, I think one thing that people get caught up in, depending on like their societal mores and what their mindset is, they get stuck on like the money train, the power train, like there's kind of dynamics of like balance of power in life. Like, are you going to be on top, or is that other person going to be on top? And then the idea of like perfection, that I have got to get to the top. I got to be the biggest sales guy. I got to be the best CEO. I got to be the master of my own universe. But could you do that without all that artifice? Could you just be happy within yourself and not have $100 million, not be a CEO, not be a billionaire, not be a tech bro? You could just be happy with simple things for you.
Yeah. And it's important, I tell a lot of people that I work with, to be good to yourself. Give yourself a break. I had a podcast, a spiritual podcaster interview me, and she asked me, at what point and in what kind of circumstance did I become enlightened? And I chuckled and I said, who said I was enlightened? It reminded me of when I gave a concert somewhere and the concert promoter took me out to dinner and he showed me the paper. It was on a Friday, and the entertainment section, I was on there, and it said Grammy winning artist Kevin Roth is performing at such and such. And I said, I never told you I won a Grammy. I was pre-nominated. He said, yeah, but it sells tickets.
Yeah, A&R guys, they do what they can.
Yeah. So, I told this podcaster, I said, I never said I was enlightened, and who cares whether I'm enlightened or not?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a guru in a business suit. There is no enlightenment. So if we are what we're seeking. We're like fish in the ocean searching for water. Everything you need to know is inside yourself. So where do you go to find those answers? Well, I like Ramana Maharshi or Yogananda. I like Hindu kinds of things, but you can find it even in the Bible. It says, be still and know that I'm God, and the kingdom of God is within you. It also says that all this is an illusion. But the mind, and here's the trick, buddy, the mind is like a little infant. It's like a toddler. It doesn't shut up. It keeps coming at you.
Yeah, well, that's a logical brain. Like that's where you're going to get a lot of stress.
Yeah,
and
so
it also tries to keep you safe, and you might be fearful of things that you shouldn't be fearful of.
Yeah, so to tell a toddler to settle down, be quiet, and be still for 20 minutes, you're crazy to ask that. So when the mind comes to you and says, I've done all the self-help books, I read all the spiritual things, and I'm miserable, and I still get caught up in, okay, but those are lessons. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. There is no degree at the end of this world.
Yeah.
There's enlightenment in the sense of that you know things and your life changes. So how does it change? When you get those three things in order, your asset with your health, your spiritual thing, your clarity, other things fade away like a shedding of a skin of a snake. You don't need a lot of people. Money isn't that important. You're peaceful being by yourself. Now, I've lived in, very expensive houses that I've owned, and I live in a 500 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment that I love. So,
and it's all like it's like this relative peace of mind. Like somebody's peace of mind might be driven at a point in time, like they got to have that mansion.
Yeah.
Right. And then they realize they don't need it. But until they realize they don't need it, they thought they needed it. It's all relative.
Yeah. Like I said, and you had concurred that we're searching for one thing, and that's love, but we're throwing a lot of stuff into the soup. And really good chicken soup only has really a couple ingredients: chicken, water, and vegetables. When you start throwing everything else into the soup, it loses its flavor. So don't be hard on yourself. You can't beat a fruit to make it ripe.
Yeah.
But if you poke at it, if you have interest in the spiritual path or exercising, and you do it a little bit at a time, like you with your podcast, you've developed it over time, you've enjoyed the process, you'll get wherever it is. You can't fail.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing I look at things is like, in IT, I'm an IT guy. We call about failing upward. That like we look at things as like everything we do is not a waste of effort. Like every time we build something, we incrementally, we're never done. Like we used to have this idea called waterfall. In waterfall, we'd have to know everything. We create these like 1,000-page documents to build the system. That would be kind of like based on mainframe structures. We need to know everything we need to know to build that. Now we deal with this idea of incremental development, which is, I don't know what I don't know, right? But tonight on your iPhone, there's going to be an update to that program because we learned something, and that program is evolving every day. It's being updated because we know we can't be perfect, and so we just incrementally fix it. So if your life, you can progress knowing that, like, yeah, it's not the end of the world that we didn't know that. now we do. We'll fix it.
Yeah. You need laughter. You need some good friends. You need good food. You need sleep. You need to turn off the noise, and you need to think good thoughts and good things will happen.
Or give yourself grace. Like, you don't beat yourself up. Like, if somebody
Yes.
says, like,
Yeah.
I'm a terrible cook, I can't bake, I could never see myself skiing or scuba diving, and then suddenly at some point in your life, you're scuba diving in Caribbean, because you finally got to that point where, oh, that wasn't such a hard thing to do. But
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
so I think it's really important for people to kind of look at their life and not have like that trying to keep up with the Joneses, or like the otherism, like blaming the other for everything that's going on in your life without taking any kind of responsibility. I think
Yeah.
people need to be accountable to themselves, right?
Yes.
If you're not feeling good, it's probably because like there's something inside of you you're not addressing, right?
Yep. And it happens. And it passes.
But you try to help people, and you don't try to help everybody. You find the people find you. That you said the people will find you. They need to find you, right?
Yes. People hear me on podcasts or on Facebook. I talk a lot about stuff. So they resonate with whatever I'm saying if they're at that place. And then they go to my website and they fill out a form and we have a conversation. And I'm a pretty good reader of people. I can kind of look at people and kind of know their story pretty quick. It's one of those things I have. And a lot of people say that they want to change, but they really don't.
Yeah, you can
A
tell
lot
that.
of,
You can
yeah,
pick up on that.
yeah. And some people can't afford to work with me because I don't do a lot of free work, for the reason that when I started to do it, no one did the work that I asked them to do because they had nothing to lose. So I charge people, and I have a certain rate. But if I see someone come to me and they genuinely are in really want to change, I can tell. And then I say, well, you can just do a donation or whatever. It's not about the money thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I had all that. It's my job, I think, on this dream planet is to look at love in a larger picture, both musically and through the arts, and also through the spiritual experiences that I've had my whole life. Based
well,
on my experience, this isn't a course you took, that you go to a university and you graduate, Mr. This, Mr. That.
yeah.
It's like I got sick, I was given a death sentence, and I got well. And this is how I do it. And when I moved to California, I became a bohemian and I liked not having credit card debt. When I was ill, I was about as maybe 540, 580 a credit score thing was terrible. Now I have excellent credit and I have 2 credit cards. I barely use them. I don't care. So, but there's a way out. And the way out is in. You have to
go inside.
And it's not complicated. And I think one of the gifts that I have as a teacher is to uncomplicate things. Every time I have a session with a client, we laugh. We just laugh and laugh. Because I think humor is really important. And, I poke fun at myself and we just laugh about things. And they, I say, okay, this week you're going to do this. And I hold them accountable. And they usually do it because they know I'll ride their ass if they don't the next week. And that's how it goes. And I really love it. I really love doing it.
You have to kind of declutter all the cobwebs that get in the way. 'Cause, like, I think a lot of times people, they get all this artifice. They think it's more complex than it is.
Well, they don't know, And that's my job, is to help them see clearly and to help them learn how to reframe their own, their own life.
Yeah, because like anyway, I spend time programming, but the mind is the ultimate computer, and it can be reprogrammed.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're an athlete or musician, you practice, you do repetition. Like that athlete, the reason they do a 3-point shot or they make that play because they've done it over. They got the muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't take their life in consideration, like if you want to get better at something, you have to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to find ways to practice on things that might be softer than what going and making that sale. That's a very specific thing, but you have to go internal. It's a different type of practice. And so if you're looking for like, is it 1 or 0? Is it yes or no? Sometimes there's like gray areas and there's things you have to work on, and it's not going to be like 0 to 100. I'm going to get it right out the first try. Right?
Yeah.
It's incremental. You have to practice something. It might be for the rest of your life. You have to be in this mindset, and it's not going to just happen in like 10 steps in 30 days.
Yes. And I don't sell. I listen. Mm-hmm. If you become a client, you become really kind of like a family member. And if you don't, I don't care. So there's nothing to sell. I remember this woman who was one of the top selling furniture salesmen in the place she worked. And you'd never know it by looking at her, because she wasn't fancy and she wasn't uptight. And I said, how did you become the greatest sales? She's always the top. And she says, I don't sell. I listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tell me what they need. And I say, I've got this, this, and this. And if I don't have it here, I tell them a different store to go to. She said, I gave up selling. It's too tiring to sell. Other guys, they said, well, consider this. And maybe we should put some extra thing on the leather chair for support, because they had to make their numbers. And she said, I don't sell. I tell people what's good here, what in my opinion, but when people ask, well, do you think that chair more comfortable? Sit on it, find out.
I know. Yeah, well, sales guys are trying to sell you the least comfortable thing and sell it to say it's the most comfortable thing.
Yeah, I don't sell. I listen. And people shouldn't sell the world. They should listen to what they're being told inside and follow that with flexibility.
Yeah. That feels more authentic, because you always feel like if somebody's got some rehearsed like infomercial, it doesn't feel real. Like my father was a sales insurance guy for he's not here anymore. He died of Alzheimer's, but his main thing when it came to selling was that he actually talked to people. He did what you say. He listened to people. The reason he was really good at sales is he knew how to tell a story. He could tell stories and he could listen to people's stories.
Yeah, storytelling is good.
They remember those stories, and then they showed it to those people. Remember the stories. The friends of those people remember the stories, and then you get connections, and then that's how it happened.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're in the same mindset. But
well, I teach what I live. I don't, it's just what works for me. And I put myself in a financial position where I don't have to bring in a lot of money unless I want to. Mm-hmm. I've toured a lot of places. I'm happy staying home and going to the beach and hanging out with my dog. So I make sure that my life is easy. I take care of my health.
Mm-hmm.
I get enough sleep. I hang out with people that are fun. And I do not do drama. I don't do it.
Drama. Yeah. Some people live on drama.
If you want drama, go to the theater. I ain't for theater.
Yeah, some people live on that. I do want to remind people we have a QR code up there, and that is for kevinroth.org. And so if you take your phone and scan that, and if people go to kevinroth.org, what do they find there? Is that how they connect with you?
They'll find a little bit of my story as a musician and life coach, as teacher. I don't like the term life coach. I like the term teacher.
Mm-hmm.
all my music is there. Dulcimers. I sell some dulcimers, and I sell some podcasts, and I think my Substack's on there. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
That's a cool thing. So that's the quickest way to get there. We do have your link below. That's not fully active until you go to the link on the platform that we've been streaming on. We've been streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick, and we will be on all the other platforms that you can listen to or watch a podcast like Spotify or Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon by the end of the day tomorrow. And I want to thank you for talking with us today and really telling your story and really showing the audience how you can how you can live in from what happened to you with the cancer and where you're able to end up fulfilling your life and not being stressed and de-stressed, and what you've talked about today about fulfilling your real personal goals.
Yeah, the important thing is that we deserve to be happy, and it's free. You just need to know how to organize the pieces, And I really enjoyed talking to you, fellow musician. And hopefully people have heard this and they'll think, that's interesting. Well, I guess I have to give up ...
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you again for being here. And we do encourage people to check out your book that we mentioned. I think I'll mention it again. So yeah, it's Between the Notes. And like you said, if you go on the QR code, you can get to that book there as well. You can go. You can find it like on other platforms too. Your book.
It's on Amazon. I don't know where else it is, but I know you can get it there.
Get on Amazon. Okay, yeah. So we just like to let people know where they can find it. But thank you again for being on the show tonight.
Well, thank you.